Okay, class, we're about to start section 3.3, using systems to model data. The U.S. market share for Chrysler went from 15.15% in 1999 to 11.17% in 2012. Honda's market share went from 6.18% in 1999 to 9.662% in 2012. Working by hand, find linear functions C of t for Chrysler and H of t for Honda, modeling their respective market shares T years since 1995. Okay, so the first thing we need to do, let's find the equation for Chrysler. Okay, now we know that the ordered pair would be TCT, which is the same as our X and our Y. So remember, everything is based off of the year 1995 as far as the years go. So the first year for Chrysler is 1999, which would be 4. And then with our second equation here, the second year, which is 2012, that's 17 years from 1995. Now we go to their percents. In 1999, the percent was 15.15%. So all you have to do is write 15.15. You do not have to write the percent sign. And then in 2012 is 11.17. And remember, it's assumed to be a percent, so you don't have to write the percent sign. Now, what we want to do next here, we want to find the slope. Now, you know the slope formula. Slope is equal to y sub 2 minus y sub 1 all over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay, now we substitute in our values. Now we have 11.17, that's our y sub 2, minus our y sub 1, which is 15.15, all divided by our x sub 2, which would be 17, minus x sub 1, which is 4. And after we put all of this in your calculator, this will give us approximately a negative 0.306. Okay, so now what we have here is we want to get this in the equation y equals mx plus b. We want to write this in slope-intercept form. So what we would do is this here. We would go through and substitute. So now we would have y is equal to, the slope is a negative 0.306 t plus b. Now remember, I told you earlier that this x represents our t and this value for y represents our ct. So what we could do is we could substitute any one of these values into this equation. Let's do the second one. Okay, so your y value, which would be 11.17, your t value would be 17, and right now we don't know what our b value is. So we would have 11.17 is equal to a negative 5.202 plus b. Because when you multiply these values, this will give you a negative 5.202. Now we need to subtract. Well, actually we need to add. We will add 5.202 on both sides. And we will end up with 16.37 well, actually it'll be 16.372 is equal to b. But we want to round this to 2 decimal places. So our final answer would be 16.37. That's what b would be approximately. Now we have to write out our final answer. Now our final answer would be, it would be c of t is equal to a negative 0.306 t plus 16.37. And that would be our equation for Chrysler. Now, we need to do an equation for Honda. So we know we would use h of t for Honda. So this is what we need to do here. We would do our h of t. So our first equation, again, we'll be starting back in 1999, and we would end up in 2012. So our ordered pairs would be 4, 6.18, and then our next ordered pair will be 17, 9.62. Okay, so now we will put in the slope equation, but I don't need to write this equation again. You see it over here, so it'll be 9.62 minus 6.18 all over 17 minus 4. Now, after you subtract this, this will give you approximately 0.265. Okay, so now we want to do the same thing we did over here. So we will have y is equal to 0.265 t plus b. Now, we can use one of these equations here. Let's use, one of these points. Let's use the top point here. So we'll have y is 6.18, and then we'll substitute in for t, 4, because remember, we're solving for b. So when we multiply this here, we have 6.18 is equal to 1.06 plus b. We'll subtract 1.06 on both sides. And this will give us 5.12 is equal to b. So now we need to write out that formula. Our formula would be, let me scroll this down a little bit so you can see the c of t. It would be h of t is equal to 0.265 t plus 5.12. And that would be your final answer. Now this is Honda's equation, and this is Chrysler equation. Now if you look at their slopes, this slope is negative, this slope is positive. That's because Chrysler was consistently going down, while Honda was consistently increasing. So that's why it has a positive slope. Now, we go to our next problem, which is B. It says, using the models, find when the market shares for Chrysler and Honda will be the same by hand. What will be the market share? Hint, you can verify the result with a graphing calculator. So we would start off with the equation. We want to know when C of t, which is Chrysler, is equal to H of t, which is Honda. And talking about their market shares. So we would have the equation that we got for Chrysler, which is negative 0.306 t plus 16.37. And we would set that equal to Honda's equation, which is 0.265 t plus 5.12. Now, we can add 0.36 t on both sides. This will give us 16.37 is equal to 0.571 t plus 5.12. Now we will subtract 5.12 on both sides. So we will have 11.25 is equal to 0.571 t. We divide each side by 0.571. And we will have t is approximately 19.7. Now remember, this is the years. Now this is going from the years after 1995. So if we have 1995 plus 19.7, we know that this would be about, our answer will be about 2015. Now you could put about 2015, or you could put the end of 2014, that they would be the same. Okay, so now our next step is we want to find out the percent that they would actually be the same at that time frame. So let's take Chrysler's equation. So we have C of t is equal to a negative 0.306 times t plus 16.37. You don't have to put the parenthesis around here. Okay, now we substitute. We know this would be C of 19.7 is equal to a negative 0.306. And we know our t is 19.7 plus 16.37. Now we will have an approximate answer of 10.34, and we know that that is a percent. So this will be our answer. It'll be about 2015, and it'll be about 10.34%. That's when their market share would be the same. The year and the market share. So what we could do here is we could draw a little graph just to represent it. You don't necessarily have to. Okay, class, I took the liberty of constructing a visual representation here. You notice here we have our two lines that intersect at 19.7 years from 1995, because this x-axis is from 0 to 40, and these are years after 1995. And this 10.34 is the market share, which is in percent. So this is your visual representation, and this is done. Oh, and by the way, you notice that where we start out up here, you know this has to be Chrysler, and this has to be Honda. Okay, class, with example 2, it says the number of men and women enrolled in U.S. colleges are given in the following table. Use linear regression to find models for E equals MT and E equals WT, the enrollment in U.S. colleges by men and women respectively, both at T years since 1980. So the first thing I did here, I changed these years as related to 1980. So 1988 became 8, and the rest became so on. So these are the values you will have to enter in your calculator. L1 will be the year values, L2 would be the men values, and L3 will be the women values. So now what you need to do is enter these values into your calculator to find the linear regression formula. So the first linear regression formula you will use is using the data from L1 and L2, and that will give you this equation here. Now using the data from L1 and L3, this will give you this equation here. This is the men equation, this is the women equation. Now you know with the linear regression it gives you A's, B's, and X's. So what you have to do is convert it into what the problem is telling us here. So this is how we get those equations. And I know you all know how to do it because that was given to you all in the previous lesson. Okay, now we scroll down to the last problem here. It's B. It says use the models to predict when men and women had the same enrollment levels in U.S. colleges by hand. What was the level? Hint, you can verify the result with the graphing calculator. Is this interpolation or extrapolation? Okay, so we would set both of these equations equal to each other. The equations that you got in A, you would set both of these equal to each other. And then we would solve for t. We subtracted 4.97 on both sides, and then subtracted 0.19 t on both sides. This resulted in us getting t is approximately a negative 3.8. So we will subtract that from 1980, and that will give us about 1976. So now we would take one of the equations. I took the male equation and substituted in negative 3.8 for t. And when I did that, I ended up with 4.59 million. And we know 1976 falls outside of the chart of information we received. So that is extrapolation. Thank you. That's it.